Alright guys, here we are in round 3 of today's Theros Prerelease from Lost Legion Games and Comics in South Charleston, West Virginia. We're already into the action. On the left, stream regular Brandon Gibbs, who opened a black pool. Both of these players actually opened black pools, but Brandon, after many iterations of decks, I think he played a different deck in round 1, but he has finally ended up on an Izzet combination, so a blue-red tempo-based deck like we saw Scotty Wright play in round 1. His opponent's Daniel Payne, who's playing a Selesnya deck that's splashing 2 islands, he said, for a card that I'm not sure of what it is. So he has some kind of splash in here, but it's basically a green-white deck. Most importantly, Daniel Payne has a copy of Elspeth in his deck, so it'll be interesting to see if the new Planeswalker makes an appearance. So far, it's just the 1/1 Death Touch guy. I do know from deck building that Payne has 3 copies of those. As we see the rampant growth creature, whose name I forget. And again, to those of you just joining us, I apologize as I am still trying to familiarize myself with all the cards in this set. We will get there eventually. That is a Burnished Heart, and he can, like I said, sack that and double rampant growth. So, Payne serving it with his Death Toucher, and Brandon content to block it with his Nimbus Naiad 2/2 flyer, just to get it off the board. Brandon going to activate his mana fixer, and then in response Payne is going to go ahead and dig out probably two planes here. Then that of course in response to the two-headed, what's that, Cerberus? Is that its name? Two-headed Cerberus? It is a two-headed Cerberus. It's a 1/2 double striker. So Payne going to untap now. No, he went and got a island and a plains. So up to 6 mana now on his turn 5. Oh, and that is right, he has a Prophet of Krufix. That is the card he's splashing. Blue 4, which is the, well, it's going to be a Commander All-Star, but it lets him untap all his business. So shout out to some regulars in the chat, to Joao over in Portugal, and Matthias down in Chile. Looks like everybody's just getting back from their own pre-releases. So thanks for taking the time to check us out here. And I think that's is that a Nemesis? So Brandon's going to play the, again, I don't know the name of it, but it shocks equal to his Devotion to Red, so that's going to be good for 3 damage. And it is a 4/2 base. So a couple of somewhat anemic creatures on Brandon's side of the board. Daniel continues to draw mana, which in this format is definitely put to good use, as you can cast your creatures for their bestow costs, as well as land some pretty big fatties in the late game. Then, of course, is a Vulpine Goliath, I believe is what it is. It's a giant fox. It's a 6/5 trampler. So thanks again to the chat for hooking us up with that. Like I said, we did not have a midnight pre-release. I did not get a chance to plan anyone before this, so I'm somewhat limited on my experience with the cards, only being experienced with the ones we've already seen, as well as the ones that are definitely going to be standard, modern, and legacy playable. So there's the Nemesis, and he's going to suit that up with a white enchantment that I'm now going to figure out what it is. The Nemesis, a 5/5 that can go monstrous into a 10/10. And Daniel's going to serve him with a 6/5 Trampler. No real blocks effectively for Brandon here. He's not too far away from this game getting way out of hand. Of course, the blue decks do have access to bounce spells, which definitely give it some game against Monstrous and Bestow, but and that's the Ordeal of Heliod. It's going to get a +1/+1 counter each and every turn. Of course, that's the white enchantment that Payne played. And when he gets 3 counters, sacks it and gains 10 life, so that that Nemesis is going to go up to a 6/6 this turn if it attacks. Can go up to an 11/11 if he chooses to activate Monstrous. Brandon adding a Necrosis and Tusker to his board, which is somewhat too little too late. He's going to be able to chump, make some dudes and chump block the Nemesis if he wants to, but it's not going to be very good. The turn 10 Crusader not nearly as good as the turn 1 Crusader in this deck or any other. Payne's serving in with everybody, going to trigger the Ordeal. And Brandon's going to try and line up some favorable blocks here. He has the Vaporkin, which can only block creatures with flying. And the table is kind of far away, so I'm going to try and figure out what... Okay, I think he figured out that he can't block with it. So Brandon's going to trade 2 of his creatures for the Vulpine. He's going to take the 6 from the Nemesis, and there is the Prophet of Kruphix, the blue card that Payne is splashing for. So Brandon, if he was not in a bad spot before, he's clearly in a bad spot now. He did, of course, forget to use it during his opponent's turn. Seems somewhat like a bad play to cast it then not use it. Is this a Mistcutter Hydra? A card that's generated a lot of buzz about whether or not it's going to be standard playable. He's going to cast it, max out and cast it for 6. I guess he's also splashing green for the Hydra here. He's going to serve in with just it. And Payne's just going to take it. Very interesting to see if he's going to remember to untap with his Prophet this next turn. Not sure he had anything to do with that mana necessarily, but he could have made his... Nemesis monstrous, and then just basically put the game away. He's suited up with another thing here. Guys, I apologize. I'm trying to figure out what went on there. Oh, so he casts Ordeal of Nylea on his creature and then attacks with it. Triggers both, gets enough counters that he has to sack both of them. So he's going to Rampant Growth off the green Ordeal. He's going to gain 10 life off of the white Ordeal. He still forgets to untap with his Prophet. But he is at 21 with a 8/8 Hydra and a Prophet. facing down not necessarily that much of an impending ground force here. And I think we're just backing up there because Brandon realizing he couldn't have blocked, he had to have blocked with the double strike guy. I think Daniel, is it just untapped creatures? Does the Prophet only untap creatures? I think it untaps everything, doesn't it? Creatures and lands. So let's see what Brendan adds a couple more creatures to his board. By the time I figure out what they are, the game will be over. Payne's loading up for a pretty massive spell here. So let's see what he's got. Arena Athlete was one of them. It's got a heroic trigger that's a target. That's a falter. It's a 2/1. Not real good in this spot. And the blue creature is a Crackling Triton. It's a 2/3 that he can pay an activation cost in red, sacrifice it, and shock something. So just attacking in with the Nemesis of Mortals. 8/8 as it stands, can go monstrous at any point here. And he's just going to chump it out with the 2/1. We're going to see Elspeth. And again, apologies, guys, for the glare. See if I can do something about that in between rounds, but we're very limited on floor space today at the store, so I can't really do much as it stands. So Elspeth making an appearance. Looks like we're going to make make 3 soldiers here. And then looks like he's going to put another ordeal on. Yeah, it looks like Payne doesn't realize that it untaps lands either. And for competition's sake, I'm not going to tell him until after this game is over, or this match is over, I should say. But Payne riding the Hydra to the win there. Of course, he did all that, and he still, at any point, he could have untapped his lands during Brandon's turn and make his dude monstrous. So, an embarrassment of riches for Payne in that situation. So his Bant deck, getting there in game 1 against the Izzet deck of Brandon Gibbs. Of course, it's a rug deck, I should say. Get some comments in the chat about how we could fix the glare. Like I said earlier, it's just kind of short notice today. We've got the store kind of turned upside down to make sure we get room for all of the players here in today's pre-release. But we should get that sorted out in future iterations. If this is the first time you've watched us, we appreciate you checking us out. Make sure you subscribe to us by clicking the subscribe button below and to the left of the video window. And check us out during our weekly Friday Night Magic podcast, 6:30 p.m. Eastern here in the States. Each and every week. It's normally standard. But next week, because of the Theros launch party or release, we'll be doing Theros Booster Draft. We'll watch one of our local limited ringers with a hand cam, watch him make his picks through 3 boosters of Theros, and then watch all 3 rounds of that pod. We'll see that pod with all of our best players, make sure that we get some high-quality Magic. People always requesting more limited coverage on the stream, so that's going to be a great opportunity to get some of that in. So I hope you can join us for that. And then the week after that will be our first F&M with new standard. We'll see which cards from Theros will take off as people get ready for states and provincials here in North America. So we move into game 2. That is the advantage of limited, not a lot of sideboarding. Don't have to wait too long. Brandon's going to try and draw even. I apologize, guys, we did lose Sam Hanna. He had other commitments he had to go to. So it's just me for now until someone out there finishes up and drops in. Looks like Brandon choosing to draw first here. Just valuing the extra card. Not something you see too often in constructed in non-manaless dredge decks, but often something you see in limited, as the depletion of resources is often the biggest choking point in any strategy. There we see the 2-1 heroic falter guy. Arena Athlete, I believe is his name. On curve, pretty good spot to be in. So Brandon serving in, following up with the 2-3 guy that will shock. So Payne's development not nearly as good in this game as it was in the previous game. He has just the Lonely Leaf Crown Dryad. 2-2 for reach, which he also had in the first game, but he also had a lot more business in the first game, so he's a little bit short here still. He does find a nesting Courser, so vanilla 3-3, which you might remember as a reprint from Future Sight. We're going to try and bounce the Courser. In response, we're going to cast, I don't know what the card is, but it's effectively Protection Scry 1. Payne just doing that, not so much to keep his guy around, but to kind of smooth out his draw here. Looking for another white source, it looks like. Excuse me. So Payne thinking long and hard here about what he wants to do. There is the Ordeal of Heliod on the Courser. Going to serve in, triggering. It's now 4-4. Brandon can trade his team for it if he wants to, but that doesn't seem like it's correct in any regard. So Brandon drops down to 16 here. We're also getting some discussion in the chat about some interactions with the bounce card and scry and whatnot, and I'll just remind everyone that we're watching a non-competitive pre-release at a local game store in West Virginia, so we appreciate the fact that these guys let us watch their games and stream them out to the world around them. So keep that in mind when scrutinizing their play. This is, of course, round 3 of 6 rounds of Swiss today. No cut to top 8. Prizes just awarded based on record at the end of the event. I believe, I apologize again for the glare, guys, but I think that's the bow of Nylea, isn't it? I'm going to serve in with everybody here. Trigger the ordeal. Or is that the Spear of Heliod? It's more likely it's a spear because the 2/2 gets to trade there with the Minotaur. Did not get to see it as much as I would like to prior to the... No, it is the bow. Attacking creatures have death touch. It is. I think it is the bow of Nylea. So all of attacking creatures have death touch, so he's going to be effectively chumping regardless of whether or not it trades. He does find another 1/1 death toucher. Not nearly as good at this spot, but it is still a body. He can still enchant it with various ordeals. He still can activate the bow and pump it up. The bow getting a lot of comparisons when it came out to Umezawa's Jitte, which obviously not nearly as powerful as that extremely broken card, but still provides a lot of utility. So we've seen the Whip of Erebos in round 2, though Joseph Deal never got to use it. Now we're seeing the Bow of Nylea in round 3. All of the equipment's pretty good. No, there's multiple decks with hammers and spears in them out there. So there is the Ordeal of Heliod, gaining 10 life. It seems like a really relevant card there, as the life gain off that card makes the race math tremendous. And Brandon's going to go ahead and read the bow. He can activate it for 2 and put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, deal 2 damage to a flyer, gain 3 life, or put 4 cards on a graveyard on the bottom of his library. Probably just going to be using it to pump at this point, I would think. I would hope, at least. Question in the chat about Payne's custom Warhammer sleeves. I do not know where he got them. I can ask after the round and give you that information. If you want to go ahead and get in touch with me, send me a direct message on Twitch, and I'll follow up on that for you if you'd like. So Brandon piles in with his team. Following up with the 2/1 flyer. And going to do damage equal to his devotion to red, which is just the 1 red. So it's 9-15. I guess we're still at the end of Brandon's turn, and Daniel figuring out what he wants to do with his bow. Probably put a +1 on the... No, he's just going to gain life there. Interesting. I think I'd start pumping up my Scorpion. So serving in with the 1/1 Death Touch guy, as well as the now 6/6 Centaur Courser. Brandon in kind of a spot here. Cannot block with his 2/1 Flyer. Just has the vanilla 4/2 at this point. All of Payne's creatures have Death Touch, so even if he wants to block the 1/1, he's going to end up trading his 4/2 with it. In the end, Brandon decides he's just going to chump out, try to save himself some life. 4 damage here, trying to decide if Payne wants to activate anything. Looks like no. So just going to take the 1. Tapping 5 mana for a Nemesis. Nemesis, which he can cast because of the, well, he's got 5 mana. Just checking how many creatures are in his graveyard, because it does make his monstrous cost that much less per creature. So Brandon down to just 1 card left in his hand. He's going to serve in with his 2/3. It's now a 5/6 thanks to a full cycle from the blue Ordeal. These Ordeals seem to have a pretty significant impact on the games. Ordeal of Thassa, letting him draw 2 cards when he sacks it. So Brandon, all the mana he would need at this point. I can't imagine there's anything in his deck that he couldn't cast. Remember, he opened a black pool, so his promo was the Abhorrent Overlord. So that's not going to make an appearance in this game. He does have a Mistcutter Hydra. Or is it a Mistcutter Snake? Am I calling it Hydra incorrect? I think it is a Hydra that he's splashing for. But as of yet, no green source. Oh no, he does have the Shimmering Grotto type land. And there is another Minotaur. I believe that is the one that has to attack every turn. It is the Minotaur Skull Cleaver. It's a 2/2 with haste. It gets +2/+0 when it enters the battlefield. Not necessarily the spot you want to be in, but of course he only drew that off the Ordeal, and the Ordeal only triggers on attacks. So he never had a chance to get that into play to swing on offense. Guess there's an argument for holding it back, but he's facing down a 6/6 Centaur Courser, a 1/1 Death Toucher, and a 5/5 Nemesis, as well as an active Bow of Nalia. I know you can't see it because of the glare, but that card above the cell phone is a Bow of Nalia. So Payne in a pretty good spot here. You see in his hand a gold card. I'm not sure what it is. So he serves in with the team because of the bow. All of his creatures have Death Touch. He won't be able to block with the 2/1 as it can only block flyers. So he has the 2/2 Minotaur. And the 3/3 Thassa's Emissary. So he does have, he does still have combat tricks with the shock guy, whose name I cannot remember, because I'm all sorts of professional here. That is the Crackling Triton, but of course it is a 5/6 thanks to the ordeal, so he's probably not in any mood to sack it anytime soon. So this attack is lethal, assuming he doesn't block anything, but I'm sure he will block something here. The question is, how does he want to line up blocks? And he's just going to chump out here. He's going to kill the Scorpion, chump the Courser, take 5 from the Nemesis. I do not believe Payne has enough mana to activate monsters. It is 9. He has 5 mana in play and only 1 creature in the graveyard. So I guess we're going to see if Payne's got some combat tricks here, or if he wants to load up his Bow of Nalia. Decides not, so we're just going to take 5 from the unblocked Nemesis. Drop down to 3. He adds another land to his board afterwards, so he's got 6 mana on board, 2 creatures in his graveyard. He's 1 mana source or a creature dying away from going monstrous with that Nemesis. We see the Prophet of Krufix in his hand, but no blue source to cast it. That is his blue splash in this deck. And Gibbs just passes back, and I'm pretty sure he's dead on board here. Payne's just going to gain life with his bow. Content to do that as opposed to loading up counters on his creatures there. And if I'm not mistaken, barring some kind of bounce spell, Gibbs is dead on board here. There's another green ordeal on the Courser. Seems somewhat irrelevant at this point. And he's bringing the house. And now 7/7 Courser. Going to trigger Rampant Growth. Going to go get a Plains and an Island so he can cast his Prophet and Elspeth if he draws it. I think those come into play tapped, don't they? Maybe I'm wrong. They do come into play tapped. Brandon shows them 2 islands. And that's the end of it. So congratulations to Daniel Payne. He moves to 3-0 in today's pre-release. Again, we have 6 rounds of Swiss coming up in total. So 3 more rounds after this. So Payne, we've seen 2 green decks on the feature match so far. Both of them making very good use of Nemesis of Mortals. Seems like a pretty good card in the uncommon slot. So guys, we've got about 10 minutes left here in the match still, or in the round still. And again, I've told you we do not have the capability this week because of the number of people in the store of moving other people under. So we are going to be limited to just the 1 feature match per round. These guys might play some games for fun, we'll see. And if that's the case, I'm going to leave the camera up just in case. But this is a good opportunity for you guys. If you are watching us for the first time, we would definitely appreciate you checking out some of our sponsors and following us on our various forms of social media. It was mentioned in the chat earlier, but if you're enjoying what you see, everything we've ever recorded, Cube Drafts, Legacy Tournaments, weekly F&M stream, West Virginia States last year, as long as a lot of other stuff, EDH deck text, things like that, up on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ZachSellsMagic. You can follow me on Twitter at ZachSellsMagic for news, just interesting comments throughout the week, as well as information about our stream matchups as they're going on, and information about our giveaways. But most importantly, the following two. You can subscribe to us on Twitch. You're watching now. Just make sure to click that follow button below the video window. Then you can head over to our Facebook page, facebook.com/ZachSellsMagic. If you go to ZachSellsMagic.com, it'll redirect you there. It's a daily Magic news aggregator. Share a lot of interesting links to a lot of interesting stories about Magic around the internet, as well as pictures and videos from our stream, news about upcoming events here at the Lost Legion store, as well as giveaways and all kinds of other interesting stuff. Plus, you can get in touch with us if you have any feedback you'd like to give us about the stream, anything you'd like to see added, any questions you might have, or if you just want to get in touch with any of our local players here that you see each and every week, you can do that on there as well, guys. So thanks a lot for watching. We appreciate that your dedication in that regard. We do have 7 minutes left going up. Like I said, I want to step out, see what's going on out there. We'll be back with round 4 shortly.